and my friend Dr. Jessida. I'm very happy to see all, and also very happy to join with you for your program at Sri Shankara College, Kaladi. Dear students, so the topic is actually the spring season of chemistry. So this audience is actually, I knew that the audience is actually BSc students, and also there are MSc students. So I will just give you some general speech on chemistry and some of the research topics that chemistry is addressing nowadays. Can you see the slide change? So now the slide, can you visible? Is it visible now? Hello?
Visible ആണ് sir.
No. Okay. Thank you. So you see this picture, you know very clearly, you know that this was an incident very early on our Earth, and you know that this incident causes the extinction of dinosaurs from the Earth. You know that it was a very great species and very huge animals. So they actually, their domain was very big at that time. So the extinction of this type of creatures was not so easy. So all of us know that it is due to a meteorite that that collided on Earth at that time. Due to that, this extinction happened. But one more thing I can add, that a very huge chemical reaction happened at that time when the meteorite collide on the Earth. Actually, the meteorite fell in the sea, actually. So in the ocean, you know that at that time heat is produced and oxygen was there at the atmosphere. Actually, in that sea, in that ocean, there was a huge collection of sulfur. There was some sulfur rocks. So what happened? A chemical reaction took place. That means water is there, hydrogen is there, oxygen is there, and sulfur is there, and heat was also there due to the heating. So you know that sulfuric acid is produced at that time. So for a long time, there was sulfuric acid in the sea and in the vapor and in the atmosphere. There is a vapor of sulfuric acid, and for a long period, there was a rain of sulfuric acid. Okay. So due to this chemical reaction actually enhanced the extinction of dinosaurs at that time. You know the invention of fire. Okay, so normally the fire, man actually feared the fire, but now it's under our control. So the chemical reaction happening here is, when the burning happens, you know that carbon will be produced, water will be produced, and the gases, and also heat. You know that heat is the form of energy. And you see, you know this very good old story of Prometheus. He's a Greek man, Greek god. So he gave us the fire. He actually stolen the fire from the heaven and gave us. And you know that the gods punished this Prometheus for his action. So you know that it was a very barbarian type of punishment, because you know that gave fire to this human being. That was a very great mistake by gods. You know that now we are effectively utilizing the energy for all these developments. And Greeks actually developed the four elemental theory first. And you know that there was no such theory before. Fire, they identified that there are only four elements, that is fire, earth, water, and air. And there are four states also: hot, dry, cold, and wet. So this is actually the starting of the elements. And you know that the period, alchemical period, it was a great period for chemistry. Actually, chemistry originated from during this period. So people were searching for gold. That means how can you change the base metals to gold? Base metals, that is cheap metals like iron, mercury. Can you make it? Can you transform it to gold? And also the another experiment were to make the elixir of life. You know that elixir of life means amrut. That means you will be young always. You will not have any disease. You will be young always when you drink elixir of life. So these two motivations actually made many elements and many processes. Okay, so you see the distillation apparatus, sublimation apparatus, many new inventions at that time, and also new elements were added during this experiment. So this period there was no useful research. It was not a useful research, you know, that making gold from the base metals and also the making the elixir of life. But the great advantage happened at that time is they could invent many chemical processes, and also they could add many elements to the list. Okay, the scientist, he was not a scientist, he was actually a philosophist, Democritus, very early, that means the 460 to 370 BC. So he found that it was actually and not a, you know, that he is not a scientist, but he was a philosopher. But his invention was like this. He found that fire and water, the components of fire and water. The fire, he concluded that the water is just like water atoms, or atoms, you can call it as atoms. The fundamental particles of water is just like in spherical shape. That is why when you are touching water, you feel cold. But he also defined that fire consists of star-shaped, sharp-edged, star-shaped particles. That is why when you touch the fire, you feel pain. Okay, so it was a great observation at that time. That means, you know, that theory is developing like this. Okay, so based on his experience, he made this theory. Okay, if it is right or wrong, maybe it may be right, it may be wrong, but you can see the power of observation. And you know that now we have a lot of elements in our periodic table. And you know this man, I don't want to introduce him. And you see here 31st, the element 31st, actually there was no element at that time. So now you know that it is gallium, but there was no element. It was simply a vacant position at that time. Then Mendeleev predicted that after some time, maybe a new element will be invented at that position. When you take it in your hand, it will readily melt. That was his prediction. So after a long time, gallium is invented, and you know that if you take gallium in your hand, it will readily melt. That means, you know that the melting point is very less for the metal gallium. So this is actually the power of periodic table. That means the prediction. Okay, how you can predict the properties of the elements by just simply looking at the position of the element. And you can see a very important reaction between hydrogen plus oxygen giving giving you water. Okay, so the peculiarity here is if you consider a triangle like this, hydrogen, you can just take you can check the properties of hydrogen. Hydrogen will burn itself. You know that hydrogen is highly inflammable. It will burn itself. Oxygen, what oxygen is doing? Oxygen will help to help for the oxidation burning process. Okay, but last water, hydrogen and oxygen will combine to form water. So what water is doing? Water will extinguish the fire. Okay, so you can see that even though the components are hydrogen and oxygen in the water, so their independent properties are not existing in water. So that is the importance of chemical bonding. That means if you combine different atoms, the properties of atoms are simply vanishing, and the properties of the compounds will be very different from that. Okay, so that is actually the peculiarity in chemical reactions. And came the concept of orbitals. Okay, so you see, I also studied in our my +2 class, pre-degree class, the concept of orbitals. An orbital is a space around the nucleus where there is maximum probability of finding electrons. So even in sleep also I will say, because I by hearted it. So the concept of orbitals, if you study in this way, you can remember. You see, there is a flower like this, and there is a honeybee, and this honeybee is revolving around the flower. You know that honeybee is actually searching for honey. Okay, and that honey is actually in the middle part of the flower. Okay, so you know that honeybee is a revolving object around the flower. And also you can see the honeybee. You cannot say honeybee is somewhere here, or here, because if you say like this, means at that time the honeybee will move. It's a moving object. But you can say that, you can say that, where is the maximum probability of finding the honeybee? So now you know that the honey is there at the center of the flower. So in the this movement, honeybee will spend most of the time at the middle part of the flower. So that middle part of the flower, when he is revolving around this, there is a particular shape. There's a particular shape for the probability. That shape is actually known as the orbitals. Okay, so the concept of these type of tough concepts, if you are studying like this, it will be very easy. Okay, anyway, orbitals actually changed our concept. The concept of orbitals completely changed the older concepts. And comes, you know, that a very famous book, The Nature of the Chemical Bond by the Linus Pauling. So it was a great book, and he introduced the different type of chemical bonding, and these studies actually boosted after the concept of orbitals. Okay, so you see in picture, you can see Lucy. So Lucy was the animal, and it's an animal that actually came into the land from the trees first time, and he or she, I think Lucy name is actually representing. Lucy name is actually representing the lady. Actually, she came to the land because of the problems with the deficiency of food on the trees. Okay, so she was not well in the walking through by these two legs. And you know that what happened to Lucy? Lucy fell from the tree once, and she broke so many bonds and she died. Okay, so now we know the complete history of Lucy. That means when Lucy died, when Lucy fell from the tree, when where the Lucy's bones were it broke. Many things we know. Okay, so we have the fossil of small parts of the bones of Lucy, and you know that maybe it is in the not much bones are available, but we can fill it with other some other techniques, and you see these things we know. Okay, so we know the complete story of Lucy. Why? It is because of the 1911 Nobel Prize uh, about the radioactive atom discovery. Okay, so you know that by using radioactivity, you can find out the age and what happens to the bone when that broke. Many things we can investigate. Okay, so this was a very special discovery, that is the 1911 Nobel Prize. And most of us, all of us will have dreams in our during our sleeping. Okay, sometimes daydreams also may be there. Okay, uh, Kekule's dream was very different. Okay, so he was actually searching for a structure for C6H6. Okay, so this molecular formula is there, and he was actually searching for the structure of benzene. Now we know benzene, C6H6. His dream was very strange. His dream is like this. Uh, he dreamt in his dream, some snakes came. Okay, so he observed that one snake is actually swallowing its own tail. Okay, so just like a ring. Okay, so after the dream, so he actually searched again. He searched for the structure for C6H6, and he got the idea of representing the C6H6 as a ring structure. Okay, so then comes the whole concept that the delocalization of electrons in benzene, that type of many things. And you know that benzene ring is the integral part of almost most of the organic compounds. And when you are talking about the spring season of chemistry, we cannot avoid catalyst. Okay, so you may be remembering the very good old story of this tortoise. Tortoise is flying with the help of birds. Okay, tortoise cannot fly actually. Tortoise is a slowly moving creature, but he can also fly with the help of birds. That means the chemical reactions, very slow chemical reactions, you can make it very fast. It will happen in within seconds when you are using a catalyst. You know that hydrogen will combine with oxygen to form water. It will take a lengthy, it's a very lengthy, it will take a long time after for forming the water. But when you are using a catalyst called platinum, with an explosion, hydrogen and oxygen will join and it will produce water. So you know that this development is made by catalyst. So catalyst actually boosted our industry, and man produces a lot of chemicals, including ammonia. You know that the very important process that actually changes the world for ammonia discovery. You know that the Haber process, they used a sponge iron catalyst for the production of ammonia. So what is the importance of ammonia? Actually, you know that Haber actually jumped with joy when he discovered this process. So he jumped with joy, not because of the passion to the science, or to chemistry. So he jumped with joy because he knew at that time he knew that he will become a very rich person at that time. He will become a very rich person. After also he became a very rich person after producing the ammonia. So why you know that why ammonia is very important. So you know that ammonia is the integral part of the fertilizer, and it actually reduced our poverty. That means it made the green revolution. And another important aspect of ammonia, application of ammonia, is in explosives. You know that war is also very integral part of the human being. So explosives can be also produced by using ammonia. So that is why Haber become very rich. Okay, due to this type of the process. Okay, Haber process. And you know, pain is actually very horrible for us. Okay, so there are a lot of pain relievers. That means the anesthetics by the synthetic organic chemistry produced many anesthetics. You see in this picture, you can see a surgery. So this man is actually tied, and this maybe surgery is going to happen now. At that time, there was no anesthetics. Okay, so you see, there is what horrible it was. So now you know that by the usage of anesthetics, we do not have pain now. Okay, so it's just like a boon. Anesthetics, the discovery, the invention of anesthetics is just like a boon for us. Okay, we made many anesthetics, aspirin and other types of you know that many pain relievers. Okay, and you know that in the history of mankind, the production of wheels was it is a very great incident. You know that earlier our wheel were made up of wood, and further it is replaced by metal, and then now you have this type of very attractive tires by using the natural rubber, the combination of natural rubber and synthetic rubber. So thanks to the process of vulcanization by the Charles Goodyear, you know that vulcanization actually connects the rubber chains and will make it strong. Okay, so the discovery, the invention of wheels is very important for the in the case of mankind. And comes the era of plastics. That means the you know that fundamentally it is a polymer, and polymer is what is polymer? Polymer, if you connect like this, that means the paper pins. If you connect like this, you'll be getting a chain. Okay, so you can connect it with yellow clips, red clips, and these blue clips, and also you can combine this also. So there's a lot of opportunities in polymers, plastic. That means it is flexible, lightweight material produced, and you can replace the wood and almost all the minerals by the plastics. You can now you know that now we are talking about the energy problems. So battery, the invention of battery is one of the prominent thing in the history of chemistry. You know that Galvani was not a chemist, he was a zoologist. So he first observed the animal electricity. So he was dissecting a frog, and when he used a metal scalpel, and if you touch the dead frog, so some vibration in between the scalpel he observed. Okay, so what happened here? You know that these two are metals, and in between there is an electrolyte. Okay, water. This blood is there or water is there, combined with a lot of minerals. NaCl, maybe NaCl. It can act as an electrolyte. He called this as an animal electricity, but you know that this actually, you know that modern this anode and cathode concept came from that. and the new type of electrochemical cells are produced. And nowadays we are using a very compact systems. Your my mobile phone and your laptop, these are all very cute compact systems. So we have to thank to this battery. That's the rechargeable battery. Rechargeable battery. So how a rechargeable battery is working? You can see this in this picture. You can see cathode, anode, and electrolyte. Electrolyte, and this is polymer lithium plus polymer lithium batteries. Lithium polymer batteries. You can see Li plus in the cathode. Li plus ions in the cathode, and when you are charging, when you are charging your battery, these lithium ions will move to the anode. When this movement is completed, your battery is fully charged. And what happens after? After the fully charged battery you will use. During the usage, what will happen? All the lithium plus ions will come back to the cathode. Okay, so this you can do it many times, and after that you know that there is a life, there's a particular life for this battery also. So, but you see, it's a very convenient battery system. So now you can see by using chemical reactions and chemistry, you can imitate the nature. You can imitate all the things, all the sense. You can imitate the color. You can imitate the smell. You can imitate the taste of apple. You can imitate the touch also. Okay, if you touch apple, it will be a very smooth feeling. That also you can create by chemical reactions or chemistry. Okay, so that is the one of the main contributions of chemistry. You can imitate many things. You can imitate the nature, and also our feeling. Okay, our thought is actually governed by a lot of chemicals. So when you feel love, when you are laughing, when you are crying, lakhs of chemicals are working in your brain for for making that expressing that feeling. Okay, so the neurotransmitters, there is important chemical that can produce this type of feelings. Okay, and you know that color actually sometimes changes the history also. Okay, so this is the color, this is the responsible color, indigo. That is the indigo actually made us free. That means you know that the great incident where our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, came to India to solve the issue of this Neelam farmers. That means Neelam is the color. You know that it is the indigo color. Indigo color. So actually, it changed the history of Indian subcontinent. Okay. So due to this color also, you know, you can see that science also changing sometimes the destiny of the nature. Okay, so you know that we are all human beings. We are all human beings, and the one of the aims of the science is to for the survival of the human being always. That means it aims that the human era, that the this domain will not be finished. That means it will survive in on our earth with a lot of convenient things. Okay, so that is why we are crushing some, if some object is coming to the earth after 1,000 years, maybe it is coming after 1,000 years, but now itself we will just send the missile to crush it. That means you know that after 1,000 years we will not be here. Some maybe 100 generation will not be here, but science will do that. So science is for the generations. Okay, so when you are doing something here, something now, it is not for us, it is for the next generation, next generation. Okay, like that we can have many problems also. Okay, so I will give you some idea about some of the challenges in our world now, and how can you solve with chemistry? Okay, so that's also included in the spring season of chemistry. Okay, so you see the beautiful picture of these coral reefs. You can see actually global warming, you know that the production of carbon, due to the production of carbon dioxide from the fuels and the automobiles, many things, the quantity of carbon dioxide is increasing in the atmosphere. So normally what happens, actually the carbon dioxide maintenance. So you know that there is a damage, there is actually a damage due to the carbon dioxide, huge carbon dioxide production. Actually, it is actually maintained, balanced by actually the oceans. You know that ocean will absorb a large amount of carbon dioxide, and they will use for making this type of reefs, shells of organisms as calcium carbonate. It will be deposited as calcium carbonate. But now you know that the production of carbon dioxide, the amount of carbon dioxide, a very huge in our atmosphere after the optimum limit, and the sea cannot, ocean cannot balance that particular uh, carbon footprint. Carbon footprint. So what happens? You know that in our atmosphere, the carbon dioxide increases, and carbon dioxide, that type of gases, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and the molecule which has permanent dipole moment, you know that it will absorb the infrared radiation from the sun. But your hydrogen, oxygen, and these are all not greenhouse gases. They will not have permanent dipole moment. They cannot absorb infrared radiation. But carbon dioxide can absorb infrared radiation, and it causes the global warming. Why I am showing this picture is, you know that this reptile, this type of reptiles, their sex determination is actually based on the heat. That means male or female, it will be decided by the heat. And you know that this tortoise actually laying egg on the seashore. You know that nowadays the atmosphere heat is very high. Here the peculiarity is, I told you that sex determination of this in these organisms is done by is governed, is actually controlled by heat. That means when heat is very high, when the temperature is very high, what happens? Females will be produced in this type of reptiles. If the temperature is very low, males will be produced. Okay, so nowadays what happened? The heat is more and in the atmosphere. So normally females will be producing every time. So this is actually an indication, one of the indications of global warming, the dangerous problem of global warming. So the solution is to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide and to convert the carbon dioxide into useful products. Okay. So another important indication is the number of stomata in the leaves. So you know that nowadays plants are reducing the number of stomata on their leaves in order to prevent the evaporation of water. Why evaporation of water? Because the temperature is very high due to the high atmospheric carbon dioxide content. The temperature is very high, so they have to reduce the evaporation from the leaf. That is why leaves are actually reducing their stomatal distribution. So that's very important. This is also an indication. This is an experiment. This is an experimental result actually. It's also an indication of the dangerous effects of global warming due to carbon dioxide. So 1 minute, please. Okay, I'm sorry. So how can you reduce this global warming? you can have many ways. The nature has its own way to use the carbon dioxide for the production of hydrocarbons. These hydrocarbons we are taking, we and other animals are taking. So the process photosynthesis is a very complex process that nature is doing. You can see the natural photosynthesis, what is happening there. And here you can have a photosystem 2 and photosystem 1. You can see in this picture. What happens here? Light is coming. You can see that 4H nu light is coming and it falls on the photosystem 2. And you can see the water. What happens to the water? 2H2O. Water will be splitted here. Okay. Then it will be producing oxygen and hydrogen and electrons. Oxygen and hydrogen and electron. So it will move to the another part here. You can see the 4H here. And what happens to the electron? Electron is also joining here. And another important thing is the carbon dioxide. So the absorption of carbon dioxide. And due to that, what happens? A chemical reaction is happening. Hydrogen and carbon dioxide that will produce hydrocarbons. And oxygen is released. Okay, so what we can understand from here, what we are trying to imitate is the photosynthesis process. The photosynthetic process, this is known as the artificial photosynthesis. Artificial photosynthesis, you have two absorbers. It can be also act as very good along with the very good catalysts. And you can see that water splitting is happened at the due to a catalytic process, and oxygen is released. Hydrogen is available for the hydrocarbon making. Carbon dioxide will be absorbed and the hydrocarbons will be formed. So this is an active research area nowadays. That means the splitting of water for producing the fuels, producing hydrogen by splitting water using sunlight. Okay, so we need very good catalysts for that. Okay, so recently one invention I read in the newspaper that black gold, invention of black gold. This is gold, actually nano gold, some processed system. And you see what happens here. It absorbs carbon dioxide and it will produce CH4. CH4 is the methane. So this is known as the black gold. This type of research is now active now. And you can see that we can reduce a lot of industrial waste, industrial gases. We can use some absorbers and also some very good catalyst to convert the toxic substances into non-toxic gases. And in this energy crisis time, and also people are searching for green systems. There the fuel cell is very important. You may be studied about the fuel cell. So fuel cell, what happens here? Fuel cell, there is an anode and a cathode, and fuel hydrogen will be taking intake hydrogen. And what happens? Hydrogen will catalyst will be acting here, and hydrogen will become H plus. And there is a proton exchange membrane. Due to the proton exchange membrane, hydrogen will be transported to this next compartment where the oxygen is coming. So hydrogen and oxygen will combine again with the help of a catalyst. It will form water, and during this process, electrons will be flowed through the load we placed outside. So this type of techniques, you know that a fuel cell is not so compact, but now people are trying to make it very compact. And if you connect the fuel cells in series, you will be getting a lot of energy, and people are trying to operate bus and cars using the fuel cell. You know that fuel cell were normally fuel cell is actually using for our space missions. For example, the Apollo mission has effectively used the fuel cell for the production of energy. And another important crisis we have to address is the deficiency of drinking water. Drinking water. So there the membranes, the polymer membranes is actually actively active. It's also an active research area for the production of very efficient membranes. And you know that this microfiltration, you know this classification: microfiltration, ultrafiltration, nanofiltration, and reverse osmosis. For all these techniques, we need very good membranes. That means we may need porous type membranes. And if you reduce the pore size, you can block many bacteria, virus, that type of things. Okay, so people are now trying to make a lot of very smooth membranes. So this is the cross section of an asymmetric membrane, where you can see at the top part small channels are there, and big channels are there in the middle part. And inside also you can see, if you enlarge this small portion, you can see very small pores. Okay, so this type of hierarchical membrane systems are very useful in the case of water filtration. So I want to give you a small introduction about two more problems. One is the oil pollution in water. Oil pollution in water. You may be knowing the very interesting lotus effect. Lotus effect. That means lotus leaves. Lotus leaves are highly hydrophobic, so that water will not be stable on the surface of the leaves. So what is the reason for that? This is called the super hydrophobic surfaces. Super hydrophobic surfaces can solve many issues. That means suppose your car, this glass consists of a super hydrophobic coating, means you can forget about the wiper. That means suppose it's a highly hydrophobic surface, means water will come and water will just go. So this type of materials are very great importance in solving the oil pollution water. So you see this picture, this man is sitting on the nail bed. So please do not try this. It's very harmful, but in a uniform way it is good. So he is sitting in this nail bed. So what I am telling about this nail bed means, actually in the lotus leaves, on the lotus leaves, water drop is actually sitting on a uniform nail bed. That means if you are enlarge the leaves, you can see the periodical growths on the water leaf. So it may appear as smooth sometimes normally, but if you check it in scanning electron microscope, you can see that lotus leaf consists of a large number of periodic growths, nail type structure, where the water is resting. So that made it super hydrophobic. So one more important thing about these super hydrophobic surfaces is, suppose dust particles is there, you can just try it with the colocasia leaves, maybe in your home. Okay, you can see that these leaves, suppose some dust particles are there. When rain comes, what happens when rain comes? When rain comes, all the dust particles will be flow with water. You can see the third picture like this. What is the reason for this type of a behavior? That means this leaves will be always clean. So this type of a property is known as the self-cleaning property of the materials. Okay, so this is a super hydrophobic material. Another important property of super hydrophobic material is the self-cleaning property. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate the self-cleaning property here. You see, there are two types of surfaces. The first one is hydrophilic, another one is hydrophobic. Hydrophobic, you can see the nail type structures here, and hydrophilic, suppose these red particles are dust particles. Suppose the water is flowing like this, means what happens? Water simply flow. That means it has an attachment. It loves the surface, hydrophilic. So it will flow simply, and the dust particles will be there. It will not flow with the water. But what happens here? Here you see the water is in a spherical shape, and it is revolving, and it is flowing very fastly. It is rolling. It is rolling on the surface very fastly. So due to the rolling, what happens? Dust particles will also picked up by this spherical water, and simply it will flow with the water. So this property is known as the self-cleaning property of the surfaces. And you see, if you have a cloth like this, you can see you need not go for the rigorous washing. But you need not use washing machine. You can just dip it in the water, and just you dry it. Okay, so this will save a lot of energy, but it may be a fun, but I don't know, maybe future it may come. Okay, so one of the important process to produce the super hydrophobic surface is known as electrospinning. So this technique is a very simple technique. Suppose you make a polymer solution like this, and this is a syringe needle. You connect a high DC voltage on the syringe tip, and also there is a collector, and we are actually giving high DC voltage, and this is a software control. Actually, if you just press the syringe, the polymer solution will come, and due to the DC voltage, it actually the liquid jet will be produced. So that will form a fibrous type membranes. So you will be getting a fibrous type membrane like this. You can see very beautiful fibrous type membranes, and these membranes can act as super hydrophobic surface. So this is just a comparison of this fiber with different human hair and this, because it's very small, and you cannot see by your naked eye. You have to check it with the scanning electron microscope. Okay, so you can see here picture we did in lab. We made a super hydrophobic material like this, and here you have petri dish. In petri dish you have water and an oil drop, and suppose you use this membrane, you can just wipe the oil on the water. You see, normally we can wipe by using a tissue paper. You can wipe the oil or water from the table or desk. Just like that, you can wipe out the oil from the water. Why there is a selective oil absorption? Because it's a super hydrophobic surface. That means super hydrophobic materials mostly have the property of oleophilicity. Oleophilicity means oil loving property. You can just wipe it out, the oil, by using this material. And another challenge we are facing is the plastic pollution. You know that all of us know that plastic is actually a very convenient material we are currently using. And you know that plastic replaced almost all the wood, furniture, and all the metal and all these type of things. That's a good thing also, because you see, plastic actually saved the world. Otherwise, there will not be any trees. We will cut all the trees and we will make it furnitures. And also we will use all the metals and minerals for our convenience. But nowadays, plastic is saved all these materials in our earth. So that is why I am telling you that plastic is a very important material. But the problem is of the littering of plastic will produce this type of painful effects, and the production of microplastics. The microplastic problem is a very dangerous problem. Suppose in land, if you are depositing some plastic material, it will undergo degradation. It will not undergo biodegradation, but it will undergo degradation due to the thermal mechanical effects. And what happens when rain comes? These microplastics will go to your paddy fields, and then it will go to the springs and the river, and finally it will reach to the sea. And after reaching sea, what happens? This type of these are food actually. So fish actually it will eat, and finally it will come to our dining table. Okay, so plastic, you know that plastic, this issue, we cannot solve it simply. There are so many options. This is the burning, actually burning without the presence of air, and the product, the recycling of the plastics. And one of the important methods for increasing the enhancement of biodegradability of polymer is the making of biocomposites. And also you can reduce the amount of plastic when you are producing a biocomposite without compromising the actual property of the polymer. Okay, so that means it actually known as the combination of synthetic plastics and the natural materials, that is known as the biocomposites. So this will actually most of the problems related to the plastic we can solve by replacing the existing systems by biocomposites, because we have a lot of resources. That means we have a lot of fibers are available here, and you can make a very good systems. This is aesthetic sense, this type of sheets, this type of carpets, you can make it by this bio systems. You know, here this banana coir systems are there, and the low density polyethylene mix. You know that here the low density polyethylene we will use very small quantity, and most of the part is biodegradable, and we will use less plastic. And so this is actually the research. So how can you control the quality of this type of material? You can use the starch. You can use the starch as the material to attach with our polymers. This is the picture of starch nanoparticles. And you can use different type of fibers are plenty of fibers are there. You can process it, and you can make it combine with polymers physically or chemically. Okay, and another important material abundant in our nature is chitin. Chitin is the shell of all these type of creatures. uh, you can make chitosan from chitin. It's a very good powder that can add to the polymeric systems to make it a biocomposite. Okay, you can see the electron microscopic pictures of chitosan. It's actually flake shape, and during an after an acid hydrolysis process, you can make it a smooth powder, smooth nanoparticles like this. That will be very advantageous for making bio nano composites. Okay, and most of the time there is a challenge, because you see, suppose your polyethylene is hydrophobic. Suppose you are using a bio nanoparticle, normally it is hydrophilic. So the combination between hydrophilic and hydrophobic is not much possible. That means if you make it a mix, it will become in a different phase. That's all. It will not be uniform. So in order to solve this problem, we can use some chemical methods. That means uh, you can use some gamma irradiation, this polyethylene chain, gamma irradiation, or some other radical initiators you can use. You can make a radical here by breaking the carbon and hydrogen bond, and this radical, it can react with a third agent called malic anhydride. And malic anhydride has a feature that it can add biofillers. Okay, so like that, this type of combination will work here. That this is actually the combination between synthetic and natural components, so that can reduce our plastic pollution problem. And you see almost all the automobile parts you can replace by very tough, very high mechanical strength bio composites. So without compromising the feature of the plastic, Okay, so it may not be degradable in a readily, but you have to add some. You can add some more chemicals to make it somewhat hydrophobic also. Okay, so then it will be for a long time it will have it will be stable. Okay, so these type of things you can replace by bio composites, and nowadays an active research is going on this area. uh, so this can reduce the issues related to the one of the methods for reducing the effect of plastic pollution. And I'm going to finish my talk. You see, two things can I can tell you. The developments in the research is the one is the long lasting discovery of long lasting fertilizer. So where actually I think recently you read about this one in this I think this spices research board developed some capsule for increasing the fertility of the land. So just like that, you can see there is a outer polymer biocompatible biodegradable polymer coating, and there will be a nutrient core you can produce. Nutrient core consists of the nutrients NPK or something, and if you keep this ball in your pots or in your uh, under the plant, what happens when water comes, it swells, and it will reduce it will release the fertilizer in a controlled way. That means it will take a long time to release. That means you can for a long time you can keep the fertility of the soil. And also you need not give you know that it's a very minimal quantity it will be released. That means that is also good for the soil. Otherwise, if you are if you are taking a large number of fertilizer, large amount of fertilizer, it continuously it will lose the it will it will reduce the fertility of the soil. And also in earlier times you can see many circuit boards like this, motherboards like this. It's an e-waste, but now the people are trying the printed circuit, just like you are taking a printout. You can design the you can design the circuit in your computer and you take printout. So now you are taking printout means the carbon deposit is there. But if such type of printer is there that can deposit metal particles, metals like this, you can produce the printed circuit boards. So nowadays active research is going on in this area, and you can make flexible type solar cells and flexible and thin, very thin type motherboards, that type of things. That means it will be miniaturized, means the pollution will be reduced. Pollution will be reduced, and also the compactness and the cuteness of the uh, equipment is attained. Okay, so these are some developments, and you can see, but always you can see that when you are when you are when you are using the natural resources for our desire, for our greed. Sorry, you can see that uh, the tree and all these type of things is the wealth of the land actually. So that is why I told you that plastic is a very important material that replaced all the wood items and all these things and saved the tree. But always we can remember that natural resources for the development, when you are going for to the development, the natural resources should be protected, and the development should be like that. Okay, and one more message by our father of the nation, and the live as if you were die tomorrow, and learn as if you were to live forever. Okay, you know that. Okay, so we will die one day, but you can live as if you were die tomorrow, but you need not compromise your learning, because you can think that you will live forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Sujith.
Okay, I can.
Hello?
Okay, okay. Yes, 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 it is audible.
Thank you, Dr. Sujith, for the excellent and nice presentation. You took us to the earlier stages of science through different stories and also to the advanced discoveries in the chemical field. It was very nice and discussed the various milestones in chemistry. That was quite interesting, and of course to the students. And then the session is now open for discussion. I hope students should have doubts. Please unmute yourself and ask questions. You can clear any doubts regarding your studies also, because the professor is from NIT Calicut, and you can clear your doubts about the higher studies or anything related to chemistry you can ask. Something about the membranes, yeah? You are doing the
Yes.
research there on membranes.
Yes, yes. We are actively working
What
on
kind of membranes? What kind of membranes you are?
Actually, we are working on
Bio-origin?
two types of membranes. One is the porous membranes, simply porous membranes, and other one is electrospun membranes. So both are using for water filtration applications. So once this in slide I have shown one this asymmetric type membrane. So that asymmetric type membrane can be very useful for the water filtration application. And now we are checking this electrospun membranes also. So that is a field. Actually, these electrospun membranes application is not only the water filtration, but also for some sensing applications also you can use, and the drug delivery wound dressing type materials also we can extend the research.
Have you done anything based on the bio-origin, bioresources based membranes?
We have not tried bio membranes, only this
Okay.
So related to water purification, what are the types of pollutants you are dealing with?
Actually, for making simply making a membrane means it will not satisfy all the it will not block all the pollutants, because the functionalization of the membrane is very important here. Suppose you want to catch some block some metal ions, so we have to go for some functionalization on the membrane. So this is actually membrane showed here is simple filtration technique, where these particles and bacteria, that type of things will be blocked by pore size only. So you can control the size of the pores. So that is one strategy. Another strategy is it is very easy to functionalize these electrospun membranes, and also the strength is more compared to the conventional membrane systems. So functionalization is also very easy in the case of electrospun membrane. So we are using this functionalization for making some drug delivery applications. But in the case of water filtration, we have not tried it yet. Uh, we are just characterizing the membrane now, and some bio applications we have used the functionalization. But you can have many options if you functionalize the membrane as per the requirement.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any question from the students?
Students, if you have any questions, please ask.
I think all are very silent.
Normally students will not ask questions. That's the point everywhere.
Okay. They will have doubts, yeah.
Maybe, but they will not ask.
Okay. If there is no doubts, no questions further, we will move to the concluding the session. I invite Ms. Demya M. Nair to express the vote of thanks.
Today we got an opportunity to hear an interesting topic, the spring season of chemistry. Sir, your explanations regarding probability of finding the electrons, Kekule's tree, story of tortoise flying with the help of birds to explain catalyst, discovery of aspirates, self-cleaning property of surfaces. All these explanations was very interesting. Our forenoon session was really very interesting and enriching the students with the prominent inventions in chemical field and about global warming, plastic pollution, especially plastic pollution, control the release of fertilizers. We are extremely thankful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation and spending your valuable time with us. Thank you, sir.